Welcome back everybody. In this demonstration, we're going to walk through the setup of a budget for your new Azure subscription. Now, hopefully you shouldn't really be getting any bills for your free Azure subscription, but this is definitely something important that you want to know about when you're working with Azure. So let's go ahead now and get started. What we're going to do is click on the subscriptions option at the top, or if you haven't actually got access to that, you can click on the menu on the left and you might see subscriptions here. If you don't have it there, you could also search for subscriptions in the search bar at the top. Once you're into the subscription section, you can go ahead and click on the new subscription that you created in the previous demonstration. Now, to make things a little bit clearer, what I'll also do is just click on this collapse option on the left-hand side to collapse part of the blade of the menu. So what I'm going to do now is browse down on the left-hand side, and you'll see under cost management, we have this option here called budgets. Now, that's the focus of this demonstration, but before we go there, I will also just quickly call out that you do have this option here called cost analysis. And that's a great way to go and get a breakdown of all of the different services that you are building, where you've deployed them, and so on. Now, we won't have any information right now, so we're not going to see anything and we'll get some errors. But as you continue to work through Azure and as you build more services and start being built, you're very likely going to find this tool quite handy. However, for now, we want to focus on budgets, so let's click on the budgets option on the left-hand side. And you'll see we shouldn't have anything here if this is the brand new subscription that you just created. So what we want to do is click on the add option, and we're going to create a budget right now. Now, since this is a brand new subscription, you're not going to see anything here. If this was a subscription that had some expenses that you'd been using for a while, this graph here on the right-hand side would provide a nice display of what sort of effect you could expect for the different costs in your subscription and what happens when you actually add a budget. We're not going to see that because we don't have any data. So what I'm going to do is just scroll down a little bit so we can see all the stuff that matters here. And I will also just quickly call out that if you were setting up a subscription in the real world, you might actually choose to go ahead and add a filter to tell Microsoft what you want to be considered to be included for your budget. Now, if you add a filter here, just be careful because that could mean that you're not seeing all of the things in your subscription that might cost money. So we're going to leave that filter as off. And in fact, we can't add one because we have no resources. And then we'll scroll down and we'll take a look here at the remaining info about the budget. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say that I want a budget and I'm going to call that a monthly budget. And you'll see I can also choose what period of time I want this budget to look at. I might say monthly, quarterly, or annually. Now, certainly we don't want any surprise bills, so let's go ahead and choose the monthly option. We can also set when we want this budget to be in use for. So we could set it up for right now through to another year, or we could actually set some other sort of time period depending on what we want. For our purposes, we really want to be watching all of the different costs, so we'll just leave that as is. And then the really important value here is the budget amount. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, for example, that I want a budget alert to be sent for $50. So all I'm really saying here is I want Microsoft to look at the spend of my subscription over a monthly period of time, and I want something to happen when that spend reaches $50. So what I can do now is go ahead and click on Next, and you'll see there we can actually now choose the alert conditions that we want. So we've set our budget for $50. We might say, what do we want to happen? At what percentage do we want to be warned? Maybe what we're going to say is at 80% of that budget value, so $40, I want something to happen. Now you'll see here that when we talk about what do we want to happen, we have this option for action groups. Right now, this is something that you can just safely ignore. Action groups, Azure Monitor, and all of these different actions is something that's a little bit more complex and is covered in courses like my Azure Administration course. All we really want right now is to be alerted by email if something goes wrong. So for example, we could say something like alerts@cloudly.io. And you can really choose to put in whatever address suits your requirements. It's very likely that you're going to put in your personal email address here. Now that might be all we choose to do. What we're saying is that if we create a number of different resources in Azure and the cost of that reaches $40, then we want to be emailed. Maybe we could put some other options here like forecasted, or maybe even something like we add an additional one, such as 100% as well. It's really up to you what you want to choose to pick here, but just do make sure you've got something like 80% rather than just 100%, so you're getting warned before you actually reach your budget. Okay, so that's all we need. So I'm going to go ahead and click on Create. And now I've got a monthly budget that can ensure that I'm not surprised by any spend that happens in my subscription. So folks, those two things are really all you're going to need to manage the cost of your Azure subscription. Now, since you've just set up a free subscription, you shouldn't really expect to be seeing any spend there, but it is just good practice to have that in place. And also, on a daily basis, when you're working with your Azure subscription, be sure to jump into the cost analysis section where you can get a fresh, up-to-date breakdown of all of your costs. Okay, everybody, so thanks once again. That's a wrap. I hope you've enjoyed it, and I'll talk to you soon.